space station. This thing is always in the way. Is that the right one? Oh, I didn't put the title on. Basically, this deals with telemetry and telecommand, a little bit about balloon transmissions and restrictions on one-way communications. One of the cool things is using satellites to communicate. And we call them space stations. And they're remotely controlled by telecommands. They can operate on the 40, 20, 17, 15, 12, 10, and 2 meter, and 70 centimeter, and 13 centimeter UHF bands.
So the secret for remembering the answer on the F or on the HF there, it's 30 is not anything.
Right. From 40 up, except for 30.
Yeah.
And I think, let's see, well, now,
Because
they did skip 23 and what is it, 33? There's 2 in there between 70 and 13.
and 30 is a shared
Yeah.
thing. So maybe that's the reason.
So I guess they say any amateur station may be a space station. And if it's what? It didn't say whether it had to be greater than 50 kilometers. But anyway, any operator may be the control operator of a space station, subject to the privileges of the class of operator license held by the control operator. And again, it has to be able to cease transmissions if ordered by the FCC or if there's some malfunction. And
it's got to be able to shut it down without shooting it down.
right. Now this only says 17 meters, 15, 12, 10, 6, 4, 2, 1, and let's see, 40, 20, 2, 70 centimeters, 20, what's 2400? Is that 13 centimeters? Five, 10 gig, and 24.
It's 2.4 gigs. Like Wi-Fi.
And we're primary on that one. So we don't have to worry about interfering with cell phones. What HF amateur bands have frequencies authorized for space stations? Hmm?
Bravo.
I'll pick it.
Yeah, is it 12?
Well, let's see. We know it's not Charlie because it's got 30. So we know it's not 30. And we know it's not all. So it's got to be Alpha or Bravo.
Yes.
I believe 12 was 1. So it means it's pretty much got to be Alpha.
It's the one that lists 6 frequencies without 30 yet.
There you go. Now remember that for 2 more weeks.
And if the truckers had their way, they'd put 11 meter on it.
Which VHF amateur bands have frequencies authorized for space stations?
2 meters deep.
VHF, yeah. I think it's Alpha. Oh, it is.
Yeah. What UHF amateur bands have frequencies authorized for space stations?
70 and 13.
I believe that's right. Uh, they're defining a telecommand station as any station that transmits communications to basically control a space station. And any station designated by the licensee of the space station is eligible to transmit as a telecommand station for that space station, subject to the privileges of the control operator. And a telecommand station, because it's special, can transmit special codes intended to obscure the meaning of telecommand messages, which is one of only 2 cases where you can transmit coded stuff. Radio control models is also encoded. It's also a one-way transmission. What is a space station or space telecommand station? Bravo sounds good. Which amateur stations are eligible to be telecommand stations of space stations, subject to the privileges of the class of the operator license held by the control operator of the station? So you don't have to be designated by NASA?
You might think so.
Well, I think because people get confused about space station and the space station. And if you haven't studied it, you'd probably miss that one on the test. If you didn't know the difference. Which of the following may transmit special codes intended to obscure the meaning of messages? Alpha. Okay. High altitude balloons or space stations can send telemetry. They define telemetry as a one-way transmission of measurements at a distance from the measuring instrument. And it talks about, normally send stuff like voltages and temperatures and things like that as part of that telemetry stream. And they have to include their call sign.
So that cannot be encrypted.
Right.
That has to be a plain transmission from the space.
That telemetry, yes, it has to be at least publicly defined. So,
Right.
if they did sort of encode it, you could do it as long as you publish how it's encoded. I think there's something gets into that on the general test.
If it's got a requirement to identify, then it's gotta be in clear text,
What's the definition of telemetry?
one-way trail. Alpha.
Yeah. It's not Delta because that would be a telecommand station.
With the
Station
space
ID?
station, oh,
Go ahead.
would the space station have to have its own unique station license? Otherwise, you have an operator license plus a unique space station license?
Yeah, it's gonna have its own call sign.
Okay,
Really?
that's right, because it's up in the air, right? It's way up there.
I think so.
Okay,
Well, it had to broadcast its call sign.
Yeah.
That broadcast we don't have.
And even like the Pico balloons, I'm pretty sure the call sign is included in that whisper.
It's
And-
usually like the control
It's the
off
control operators.
with a
It's not
dash.
actually one.
number behind it or something.
Yeah,
But that's unique to that because of the
That's
slash
unique to
one
that
or
balloon
whatever, right?
I think
Yeah.
some of them know.
Like my hotspots are W3RDL/1 and /2. So they're unique.
Hmm. But it's not another call sign issued by the FCC.
Correct.
Okay.
Although I think it could be, but I guess it doesn't have to be. You could, I mean, it'd be like a repeater, which gets its own call sign. I'm not sure, I'm just guessing. Okay. So station ID, you've got to transmit. Can be voice or CW. I don't think it says that here. At least once every 10 minutes during a communications. When it's not communicating like on the repeater, does that do it every 10 minutes or every 15 minutes?
We do ours every 8,
8? Okay.
just to make sure we don't get to the edge.
And no station may transmit unidentified communications or signals. So you can't key your transmitter and not say who you are legally. Even if you're testing, you have to give your call sign. I don't think everybody does that. Which of the following is required in the identification transmissions from a balloon-borne telemetry station? Let's see, telemetry is one-way communications. The only places where it's allowed are space stations, beacons, and telecommand stations. Actually, they left out radio control models, which is one-way communications also. Which of the following amateur stations may transmit one-way communications? Alpha. Earth stations. Any amateur station can be an Earth station. It seems kind of obvious. A holder of any class operator license may be the control operator of an Earth station, subject to the privileges of the class of operator license held by the control operator. So what amateur stations are eligible to operate as Earth stations? How many deltas we got? Radio control models.
Oh,
That's a separate subsection, I guess.
it was probably added.
Yeah. And also, I don't think this is valid anymore
Oh,
because it's, over 3 years old. Because now you have to have,
well.
they don't have radio control models anymore. They have uncontrolled aerial vehicles, UAVs, for drones, and they've changed all the rules, and it's got to have it's no longer one-way communications. It's got to transmit its effective call sign number, and
So this only applies to amateur radio frequency,
yes.
which is
But I think the new regulations will supersede this. of having to have I forgot what they call it now, but it's got to be able to transmit information so that they can, it's like the box on aircraft. So you know where it is and who it is. And they lumped regular radio control stuff in with all the drones because of probably Amazon wanting to use drones to deliver packages. So according to this, you need a photocopy of the station license and a label with name, address, and telephone number of at least one control operator in a conspicuous place at the station location. Now, I assume that means that your transmitter, but I've I've never had a copy of that stuck to my transmitter.
But you haven't used amateur radio frequency.
That's true. That's true. I used spread spectrum at 2.4, which is amateur frequency, but amateurs aren't allowed, or, well, yeah, can you use spread spectrum on 2.4, right? Or not, or is it 4? No, it's 220 and up, I believe. I don't know. And you're limited to 1 watt. At least, and I think that's true for the non amateur radio ones also. They don't say. I would assume it's PEP. And normally, well, I guess on the amateur band, you could build your own transmitter, so. But in most cases, it's a commercial unit and it's fixed by EFSA, so you don't even have a removable antenna. What must be posted at the station location of a station being operated by telecommand or on or within 50 kilometers of the Earth's surface? Did you notice how that one's worded?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's different. Station being beat.
That's implying that I've got to have a copy of that stuck on my airplane.
Not what the previous slide was correct, though.
No.
And now you get your drone to go over 50 kilometers. It becomes a space station. So,
Yeah.
What's the maximum permitted transmitter output power when operating a model craft by telecommand? 1 watt.